Things are getting even spicier in the crypto space today, as the giant BlackRock has finally filed for a Bitcoin ETF. And at the same time, what we've been covering over the last couple of days regarding Prometheum, well, it's getting a proper investigation, or rather, the Blockchain Association, which also is independently going after the SEC, has filed a FOI inquiry into Prometheum to see what exactly is going on there. At the same time, apparently Mayor Francis Suarez is signaling a run or intent to run for US presidency in 2024. He is pro-crypto, and I believe he is also, logically speaking, not a very big fan of all the money moving out to Asia, as that's basically the major move right now. This article shows that Asia lays out a welcome mat for crypto while the US bars its door. We've seen with the SEC them basically saying, hey, don't come here, don't stay here, go away. All these different companies are exploring different verticals and different options for other accommodation. Now, I don't want to take this too deep, but you guys have also hopefully seen even Elon Musk tweet out that San Francisco in the United States is just a hellhole. You can't really live there anymore properly. You can't go to work properly. You can't do a lot of things because of the crime, because of the theft. Isn't that insane? In such a hub of sorts that it's impossible to leave your car at work. And there comes the point. The US, in terms of policy, is doing a lot of things very wrong. But I don't want to sit in or on that for too long today. I guess if we're talking about the US doing things wrong, apparently FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried now faces 2 criminal trials, but apparently a lot of things got dropped. A district judge ordered a separate trial for the Department of Justice's charges against Sam Bankman-Fried, which were added following his extradition to the US. So in theory, this would get worse for him, which could be interesting, but that kind of depends on how you view things. Anyway, if we look over on my Twitter, the most important thing is this right here. BlackRock just officially filed for a Bitcoin spot ETF. And you can see it right here. Their iShares has filed for a Bitcoin trust. And that's actually where a little bit of semantics come into play, where the question is now, what exactly do we define as an ETF? Usually, these trusts are what we consider an ETF, right? That's like fine enough for us. But Anthony Pompliano said, well, it's officially, if we're talking real words here, not an ETF, it's a trust. Now, Miles came in to say, well, it literally states so on the SEC's website. So this is all real, but once more, it's a trust, not an ETF. Does it make a difference? That depends on your perspective. It's nearly the same thing. Once more, it says trust on the document, so it is a trust. And technically speaking, nobody really seems to know the difference, but it is officially a trust, not an ETF. And interestingly enough, Pompliano is saying, perhaps there have been other trusts from reputable names which actually did not receive too much interest. And I personally see it in a way of, well, what we've seen before with BlackRock opening up their corridors for their institutions to get invested into crypto. They facilitated that. They allowed for that because they saw the demand. And so they probably wouldn't be making this if there wasn't a crazy demand for it, which is just my thoughts. And it's interesting to see what Grayscale is going to be doing here. They might be forced to cut their fees. They might be forced to introduce a daily redemption to compete with all this. And so from that perspective, everything having to do with Grayscale and GBTC, which was basically a sort of, I guess, ETF, derivative trust sort of before, is now going to also be in an interesting spot. Anyway, what I was saying was Patrick McHenry, who recently tried to get Gary Gensler fired, right, through that bill. Wait a minute. No, this is actually the guy who spoke with Gary Gensler, I believe, about Ethereum. Guys, all these faces look the same. I believe this was the guy who asked Gary about Ethereum because he's the chairman of the financial committee. But even on that, please don't quote me. I just know this man has been on our side at least a little bit. In some of these questions. Anyway, doesn't matter. He's just said, your move, Gary. The SEC must not pick winners and losers based on inconsistent factors. I'll be watching this closely. And so we can see that the eyes are peeled on all of this, right? We can see this is Warren Davidson and Tom Emmer, I believe, is Bill of, let me show you better, of getting Gary Gensler out of this system and appointing, different people to make sure that nobody can really overrule like a freaking dictator. And people are also noticing there have been applications like this before, yet the SEC always was against them. Robert says there's no different than Grayscale. This can be used to short Bitcoin into the floor. This is a Trojan horse, not a real ETF. Don't be lulled to sleep. But the way I personally see it, this is just bullish, this is just nice. And the only thing you can say against it is the fact that the SEC might shut it down. But the fact that BlackRock is going for it now, and that all the eyes from all the senators, all these political figures are now on it because of SEC's recent statements, I think this has a good chance to pull through. Or essentially, I think that them stopping this one now would shoot themselves in the foot even more because of all the questions that would come afterwards. And you could, I'm not sure why I did that. And you can see right here, Jake Travinsky also said, the SEC has adamantly refused to approve a Bitcoin spot ETF for years now, a view so entrenched that it's litigating the issue against Grayscale right now. Knowing the SEC disagrees, BlackRock wants to list a Bitcoin ETF on NASDAQ. Everyone gets how big this is, right? Now, another thing, which I think is interesting. Mr. Huber is going too deep, I think for his own good, into a lot of these crazy connections. Holy shit, Alibaba teamed up with Ethereum supporter Wang Shang, you know Wang Shang, right? Back in 2014 when Bill Hinman was preparing Alibaba's IPO, and it gets even better. Andrew Keys described how Alibaba and anti-financial use Ethereum and consensus technology on the consensus website. Let's continue on. Same week, Hinman became director of corporation finance, which is a little interesting connection of sorts. In that same field, because we're talking about Hinman now anyway, Hinman's deposition was July 27, 2021, long before the Judge Torres ordered the email speech to be produced. Judge Torres's order is dated 9/29/2022. And that is a response to this saying, take a wild guess at what two words are the most redacted in the Hinman deposition. I won't say it, nor will I confirm anything, but one word is the name of an individual, and the other most redacted word is the name of a company. So here you can see a little example of, and then you wrote, the folk are very happy we are talking with him as well. How did you know the folks were happy, right? And I won't say exactly what this is. People are putting up consensus, Lubin. So, because Buterin is still in there, right, from Ethereum. So, the Division of Corporation Finance was speaking to Mr. Buterin. I think I arranged the call with Mr. Buterin to do our due diligence through, and then, do you ever miss a call with them? I think a few of us did together, yada. And what did you withdrawn? What did you hear on that call that allowed you to form the impression that the folk were very happy that the Division of Corporation Finance was talking with Mr. Buterin? And then answer was, I think you are referring to my call with Mr. Joseph Lubin, potentially. Again, speculating. I'm referring to the basis for your statement. He says, right, that you were, and the point being, something is being hidden specifically here, and it's getting on people's visions right here. That's the thing. As I said, the SEC made a major mistake by getting too deep into themselves, or I guess getting too deep into this entire situation. Hey, wait a minute, something else has happened. I like this already, but sometimes I forget that I have seen news, and so it's good to sometimes read through my likes. House Financial Services Committee Chairman Patrick McHenry has just announced 2 SEC oversight hearings next Thursday, June 22nd. So they're going even deeper into all of this. This is, again, what Patrick McHenry is for, to ask the questions, which, again, I very much appreciate. And John Deaton is coming in once more to say, reading the Hinman deposition, snapshot summary, he didn't tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I'll explain and prove it in the near future. And he's basically been showing so many things over the last couple of years that explain how there was either conflict of interest or plain lies or just some ignorance of sorts. It's just really crazy, the whole Hinman situation. And I find that now, because of the way the SEC has been acting, this is going to get so much deeper. I think they could have gotten away with this if they didn't go stupid on Ripple and they didn't go stupid on Binance and Coinbase. According to the transcript, Stuart Alroti from Ripple was present and listening during the Hinman deposition. I found the moment where he spit out his coffee. Bill Hinman quote. With respect to Ethereum, one of the things that was somewhat compelling was it was fairly transparent. With respect to Ethereum, one of those things, yeah, that's kind of funny. Most of the decisions and information around the network were posted on places like GitHub or Reddit. Question. So you looked at public documents, and he said, I believe that would be part of the process. Do you remember any of these public documents that you looked at? And he says, no, basically. Did your staff have a look at it? Yes. And question again. And did any of the documents that were reviewed, did they talk about the concentration levels of mining, etc.? And they said, objection, we're not going to talk about that. In the meantime, the SEC uses Ripple's XRP market reports, akin to how they used Ethereum's documents online, apparently, against them to argue that they were being transparent with their XRP sales to show that they were being good stewards of XRP so investors would buy XRP. So basically, once more, a conflict because with Ethereum, they looked at the documents that came out and said, hey, you see, this is showing some transparency. This is good. And then with Ripple, they basically said, hey, this is showing that you want people to now buy XRP because you're putting up a good picture of XRP and you're being transparent. Like I stated earlier, all I think this will achieve is for more money to flow out of the United States. And because Hong Kong is now saying to banks, hey, go ahead and accept crypto, go ahead and go at it. This might be very scary for the way that crypto is going to be handled in the US. With FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, I kind of don't care about him anymore, honestly. What happens to him, I just hope he gets some justice. Wait a minute. Am I seeing again Kaplan in this? Louis A. Kaplan. Wait a minute. Is Kaplan just a really common name? Because why is this like everywhere in those Prometheum parts, but then it's also right here? That's like really interesting. Because there's 3 Kaplans. There's Aaron and 2 others. Okay, that's really funny, right? That some guy at the SEC is working like that. At the same time, oh, sorry, the SEC. Somebody in a district judge is Louis A. Kaplan. Let me check. Okay, so no, it is just luck, but that is really funny. That you can see we have Martin H. Kaplan, Aaron Kaplan, and Benjamin Kaplan. And people are saying that, again, right now in their company, they got some special privileges from the SEC, and they've got an SEC person in their ranks. But I can't be bothered to look up exactly which one. I don't care enough. And to move on with that, actually, Korean crypto contagion. Bank of China on Ethereum, Heikei's exchange red carpet Asia Express. Once more, I think what we're seeing is that potentially a lot of money is also flowing from Korea to Hong Kong right now. Usually Korea is the big crypto hub, so to speak. And wait a minute, I'm just kind of seeing exactly Changju. This kind of has a logo from something else that I know. Anyway, I mean, with the whole situation that Korea kind of shamed themselves with Do Kwon and they were really sad with his situation, perhaps that's also making them a little bit more skeptical towards crypto. Well, over in Hong Kong, even though they've had plenty of scandals. I mean, FTX was based there before they moved to the Bahamas. You know, they still got themselves that little stamp on their backs. I don't think they care too much. And they just probably got some orders from China to accept all the money. So the only thing I'll say here is that many things are just crazy right now with everything going on. I mean, over in the US, the situation with Prometheum is making things wilder. The situation with now BlackRock coming in hot is making things wilder. The situation with Sam Bankman-Fried, nobody cares about that because whatever happens to him, he probably deserved. That's the way I kind of see it. The fact that all the money is moving to Asia is something to definitely be watchful of. That the fact that there's another meeting coming up the 22nd of June, so in about 6 days from now, is something I'm definitely going to be watching. And I recommend you guys also pay close attention to that. And, well, for the most part, that's about it. If you've not done it yet, make sure you put that notification bell on. If you want to, press that like button. I'll see you again in another crypto video, most likely somewhere later today.